Feuding real housewives, drunk celebrities, awkward confessions, and every variety of chaos that can unfold when you mix cocktails with live television. His secret weapon has always been the same, a razor-sharp wit delivered with a smile so charming that guests rarely realize they've been eviscerated until the clip goes viral. But on a Thursday night in the Bravo clubhouse, Meghan Markle proved she was not most guests. She arrived expecting worship. She received Andy Cohen. Within 25 minutes, the Duchess of Sussex would be reduced to sputtering indignation, outmaneuvered at every turn by a host who'd been handling difficult divas since before she ever auditioned for Suits. By the time she ripped off her microphone and stormed out of the clubhouse, Andy had done what he does best, exposed exactly who someone really is, one perfectly timed observation at a time. Before we dive into this explosive story, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. We bring you the most shocking celebrity moments every single week. Now, let's get into what really happened in the Bravo clubhouse. The familiar neon glow of the Watch What Happens Live clubhouse bathed the set in its signature purple haze as the studio audience buzzed with anticipation. Thursday nights at Bravo were always unpredictable, but tonight felt different, charged with an energy that suggested something memorable was about to unfold. Andy Cohen emerged from behind the bar with his trademark cocktail in hand, his smile wide and mischievous as always. Hello and welcome to Watch What Happens Live. I'm Andy Cohen, and tonight we have a very special guest. She's a duchess, a philanthropist, a podcaster, and one of the most talked about women on the planet. Please welcome to the clubhouse, Meghan Markle. The audience applauded as Meghan emerged from backstage. Her smile was practiced, her wave precise, her entire presentation calculated to project warmth while maintaining distance. She settled onto the bar stool beside Andy, accepting the cocktail he offered with a polite nod. Meghan, thank you so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you. Thank you, Andy. I've heard interesting things about this show. Andy's eyes sparkled. Interesting good or interesting terrifying? Let's say interesting. Fair enough. That's basically our brand. So, let's dive right in. You've been living in California for several years now. How's the transition been from palace life to, well, whatever you call what you're doing now? Meghan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I'd call it living authentically, something that wasn't possible in my previous situation. Authentically. I love that word. It's very California, very goop. Andy sipped his drink. So what does authentic Meghan look like? Walk me through a typical day. I don't really think in terms of typical days, Andy. Every day is different. That's the beauty of the life we've built. Sure, but do you wake up early? Late? Do you exercise? Meditate? Manifest things? Meghan tilted her head, a hint of condescension creeping into her expression. I'm not sure why my morning routine is relevant to anything meaningful. It's not. That's kind of the point. This is a late-night show. We ask silly questions. It's fun. Andy grinned. Or at least it's supposed to be. You seem very serious. I take my time seriously. There's a lot of work to be done. Right, the foundation work. Tell us about that. What are you actually doing? We're addressing systemic issues, mental health, women's empowerment, children's welfare. The kind of substantive work that creates real change. That sounds amazing. Can you be more specific? Is there a program I could look up? A thing with a name? Meghan's eyes narrowed slightly. Why do you need specifics? Can't you just trust that the work is being done? Andy laughed, a genuine, delighted laugh. I mean, I could, but I'm a journalist. Well, a journalist-adjacent entertainment personality. We like details. It's kind of our thing. Details can be weaponized. So can vagueness. At least with details, people can fact-check. Vagueness just asks for blind faith, and I gave that up around the same time I gave up carbs. Both were making me bloated. The audience laughed. Meghan did not. I don't appreciate being mocked. I'm not mocking you. I'm just pointing out that, trust me, I'm doing good things. Isn't super compelling without examples. I could say I'm solving world hunger, but unless I can point to some actual fed people, it's just words. The work speaks for itself. Does it? Because I literally cannot hear it speaking. Maybe it's whispering. Should I lean in? Andy cupped his hand to his ear dramatically. The audience laughed again. Meghan's jaw tightened. This is exactly the kind of superficial coverage that makes meaningful discourse impossible. Superficial? I asked you what you do, and you said things. That's not exactly deep, Meghan. I'm trying to go deeper. You're the one keeping us in the shallow end.
Perhaps you're not equipped to understand the deeper work. Andy's eyebrows rose.
Ooh, did you just call me stupid? On my own show? He turned to the audience. She just called me stupid on my own show. This is amazing television. I didn't call you stupid. You implied I'm not equipped to understand. In my experience, that's how smart people call others stupid without technically calling them stupid. It's very elegant. I respect it. Meghan took a visible breath, composing herself. Let's change the subject. Happy to. Let's talk about Harry. How's he doing? The shift in Meghan's demeanor was immediate, a wall going up so fast you could almost hear it slam. I'd prefer not to discuss my husband. Really? You've discussed him extensively in documentaries and interviews and a whole book he wrote about your relationship. But now he's off limits? Some things should remain private. Since when? You guys literally had a camera crew in your house for a Netflix series. Privacy doesn't seem to be a core value so much as a strategic choice. There's a difference between choosing what to share and being forced to share. But you're not being forced. You're being asked. By me. Very politely. With a cocktail in hand. This is about as gentle as questioning gets. The question itself is invasive. How's Harry is invasive. That's how people greet each other at parties. Hey, how's Harry? He's great. That's literally the entire exchange. You've made it weird by refusing to participate. Meghan's eyes flashed. I'm not here to discuss my marriage. What are you here to discuss? Because so far we've covered. Nothing specific about your work, nothing about your husband, and nothing about your daily life. We're running out of topics, Meghan. Unless you want to talk about the weather? Is the weather private too? The audience laughed more openly now. They could sense the dynamic shifting, could see Andy gaining ground while Meghan retreated into defensiveness. I'm here to connect with your audience about issues that matter. Great. What issues? Name one. Pick your favorite issue and let's connect about it. Meghan paused, seemingly caught off guard by the direct invitation. Women's empowerment. Fantastic. I love empowered women. I've built a career on them. What specifically are you doing to empower women? We're creating platforms for voices that don't usually get heard. Which voices? Whose voices specifically? Women from marginalized communities. Names? Organizations? Programs I could Google? Why does everything need to be Googleable? Because we live in the information age? Because accountability matters? Because people generally like to verify claims before believing them? Andy shrugged. Pick any of those reasons. They all work. You're being deliberately obtuse. I'm being deliberately curious. There's a difference. Obtuse would be accepting vague answers and moving on. Curious means I keep asking until I understand. So far, I don't understand anything about your work except that it exists and it's important, which, honestly, describes almost everything. My houseplants exist and they're important, to me, in their way. Did you just compare my charitable work to houseplants? I compared the level of detail you've provided to the level of detail I know about my houseplants, which is to say, they're there, they seem fine, and I couldn't tell you much more than that. Meghan set down her cocktail with more force than necessary. This is not the kind of interview I was expecting. What were you expecting? Something more supportive. I am supportive. I support you giving me real answers to real questions. That's the best kind of support. The kind that holds you accountable instead of just nodding along. Andy smiled brightly. Some people call that journalism. I call it Tuesday, or Thursday, since it's Thursday. You call this journalism? I call this a conversation. You're the one who's made it difficult by refusing to engage with anything substantive. I've engaged plenty. You've deflected plenty. Those are different verbs. Engaging would be, here's a specific program we're running. Here's what it does. Here's the impact. Deflecting is, the work speaks for itself. See the difference? Meghan stood up slightly from her stool before sitting back down, a false start that betrayed her agitation. You're trying to make me look bad. I'm trying to have a conversation. You're making yourself look bad by treating every question as an attack. I've asked you about your life, your work, and your husband. Literally the three most obvious topics anyone would ask about. You've refused to engage with any of them. That's not my doing. The questions have been hostile. How's Harry is hostile. What do you do is hostile. Meghan, if those are hostile questions, I don't know what a friendly question would sound like. Would you like me to compliment you while you sit there in silence? Is that the vibe we're going for? The audience laughed. Meghan's face reddened. You're mocking me again. I'm pointing out the absurdity of your position. You've come on a talk show and refused to talk. That's inherently funny. I'm just acknowledging the humor. There's nothing funny about being misrepresented. When have I misrepresented you? Everything I've said has been about what you've actually done in this conversation. I haven't made anything up. I haven't twisted your words. I've just responded to them. You've responded with sarcasm. Sarcasm is my love language. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm sarcastic with people I like. You should be flattered. I don't feel flattered. That's okay. Feelings are complex. But here's the thing, Meghan. You can't come on a show famous for asking pointed questions and then get upset when the questions are pointed. That's like going to a steakhouse and complaining about the beef. It's literally why you're here. I'm here because I thought this would be a supportive platform. For what? You haven't told me what you're promoting. You haven't shared anything worth supporting. You've just sat there being defensive about things I haven't even accused you of. It's like you came loaded for a fight that nobody else was having. Meghan's voice rose. Because I know how this works. I know what media does. I've been destroyed by it before. By British tabloids. I'm not a British tabloid. I'm a gay man with a talk show who asks celebrities questions while drinking. The stakes are very different. The stakes are always the same. Everything I say gets twisted. Nothing I've said has been twisted. We're on live television. The audience can see exactly what's happening. I've asked reasonable questions. You've given defensive non-answers. That's the whole story. That's your story. That's the story. Because it's what's actually occurring, right now, in front of witnesses. Andy gestured to the audience. You all saw this, right? I asked normal questions. She treated them like war crimes. The audience applauded in agreement. Meghan looked around the room, her expression shifting from anger to something closer to desperation. This is exactly what always happens. You mean you encounter the same problems repeatedly? Interesting. Have you considered that maybe, just maybe, the common factor is you? The observation landed like a bomb. Meghan stared at Andy, her mouth opening and closing. How dare you? I dare because it's true. You've had conflicts with the royal family. You've had conflicts with British media. You've had conflicts with American media. You're having conflict right now, with me, on what was supposed to be a fun late-night show. At some point, Meghan, you have to ask yourself why every situation turns adversarial. Because people are adversarial. Some people, not all people. And the people who aren't adversarial often become that way when they're treated with suspicion and hostility, which is exactly what you've done tonight. I've been perfectly pleasant. You've been perfectly guarded. There's a huge difference. Pleasant is warm, open, engaging. Guarded is what you've been, defensive, evasive, treating every question like it hides an agenda. Meghan grabbed her cocktail and took a long sip, buying time. When she spoke again, her voice had a forced calm. Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot. Let's start over. I'd love that. Let's start over. Hi, Meghan. Welcome to the show. How are you? I'm fine. Great. What's new with you? We've been working on some exciting projects, such as? Meghan hesitated. Various initiatives through the foundation. We're back to vagueness already. That was fast. I was about to elaborate. Were you? Because that's the third time tonight you've mentioned initiatives without naming a single one. I'm starting to think the initiatives might be imaginary. They're not imaginary. Then they have names. What are the names? There's the Archwell Foundation. That's the organization's name. What does it do? Specifically. Meghan's composure cracked visibly. We support various causes. Which causes? Andy threw his hands up dramatically. Meghan, I have asked you what feels like 47 times to name something specific. Anything. A program, a grant, a person you've helped, something I could verify. And every single time you give me word salad. It's genuinely impressive how many sentences you can construct that contain zero information. I don't appreciate being badgered. I don't appreciate being stonewalled. We both have complaints. The difference is, mine is legitimate. I'm asking a guest to answer basic questions. Yours is just frustration that I won't accept non-answers. Meghan stood up fully now, her stool scraping against the floor. This was a mistake. Coming here was a mistake. Why? Because I asked you to back up your claims? Because I didn't just nod along while you said vague things about empowerment? That's not a mistake, Meghan. That's journalism. Well, entertainment journalism. Journalism-adjacent entertainment. Whatever this is. This is harassment. Andy laughed out loud, a genuine, surprised laugh. Harassment? I've asked you what you do for a living and how your husband is. If that's harassment, every dinner party in America is a crime scene. You've been hostile from the moment I sat down. I've been curious. You've been hostile. There's an important distinction. I asked questions. You got defensive. I pushed back on vague answers. You got more defensive. I made jokes to lighten the mood. You accused me of mocking. See the pattern? I've been trying to have a normal conversation. You've been treating it like an interrogation. Because that's what it is.
It's really not. I've interviewed actual controversial people on this show. Politicians, real housewives, people with actual things to hide. They managed to answer questions without treating me like an enemy. You've made this harder than any interview I've ever done. And I once tried to get a straight answer out of Lisa Rinna about whether she threw a glass at someone. The audience laughed. Meghan's face was now fully flushed with anger. You think this is funny? I think your reaction is disproportionate. I think you came in here expecting softball questions and worship, and you got actual engagement, and you don't know how to handle it. I think you've been surrounded by people who agree with everything you say for so long that you've forgotten how to deal with someone who doesn't. You don't know anything about my life. You haven't told me anything about your life. That's literally been my point for the last 15 minutes. I know nothing because you've shared nothing. You've given me platitudes and deflections and accusations of hostility, but zero actual information about who you are or what you do. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the bar. I'm leaving. That's one way to handle it. Another way would be to actually answer a question, but leaving works too. You'll regret this. Will I? Because I'll go home tonight, sleep well, and wake up tomorrow still being me. Same job, same life, same everything. You'll go home and add another name to the list of people who've wronged you. I think we both know who's really going to regret this. Meghan froze, struck by the observation. What's that supposed to mean? It means your list of enemies keeps growing. Every interview, every interaction, every situation turns into another grievance. At some point, you're going to run out of people to blame and have to look at the common factor. The common factor is hostile media. The common factor is you, Meghan. You're the person in every story. You're the one who's in conflict with your family, your former friends, the British press, the American press, and now me, a gay talk show host who asks celebrities about their love lives and makes them play drinking games. If you can turn this into an adversarial situation, the problem might not be the situation. I didn't turn anything into anything.
You absolutely did. I was ready to have fun tonight. I was ready to ask you silly questions about life in California and throw to the audience for Plead the Fifth and maybe get you to spill some tea about palace life. That's what this show is. That's what I do. And instead, I've spent 25 minutes trying to get you to answer a single question without treating it as an attack. Meghan's hand tightened on her purse strap. You were never going to give me a fair interview. Every question I've asked has been fair. The audience has heard every word. There's no editing on live TV. What you see is what happened. And what happened is that I tried to have a conversation, and you refused to participate. That's not unfairness. That's just failure to engage. I engaged. You deflected. Different verb. I keep having to remind you of this. Andy sipped his drink calmly. Engaging would have sounded like, great question, Andy. Here's what we're working on. Deflecting sounds like, the work speaks for itself. You've deflected all night. I've just pointed it out. Meghan walked toward the exit, then turned back for one final statement. People will see this and know exactly what happened. They'll see how I was treated. They absolutely will. They'll see me ask, how's Harry, and watch you refuse to answer. They'll see me ask about your work and watch you say nothing specific. They'll see you get increasingly hostile while I remained calm and curious, and they'll draw their own conclusions. They'll see your bias, they'll see your defensiveness, and no amount of press releases will change what's on that tape. Andy raised his glass toward her. Thanks for coming, Meghan. This was genuinely one of the most fascinating interviews I've ever done. Not because of what you said almost nothing, but because of what you revealed. I revealed nothing. You revealed everything. Good night." Meghan stormed out through the clubhouse door, the sound of her heels echoing through the stunned silence that followed. Andy turned to the camera, his expression a perfect mix of bemusement and satisfaction. "Well, that happened. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do the after show with someone who actually wants to be here. Don't go anywhere." The audience burst into applause, supportive, sympathetic applause for the host who'd handled an impossible guest with unflappable wit. The interview lasted 26 minutes. Its impact would last considerably longer. And somewhere in Montecito, a duchess was learning what many before her had discovered, that Andy Cohen's charm is a weapon, his curiosity is relentless, and his cocktail is never too strong to prevent him from delivering the perfect line at the perfect moment. The clubhouse had claimed another victim. What do you think? Was Andy too harsh, or did Meghan deserve every comeback? Who would you want to see in the clubhouse next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to